Exploring the unknown, from conspiracies to mysteries. You are entering the conspiracy sector.
Well, welcome everyone to this very special program. I'm your host, Aubrey Batchelor, and sailing this amazing, scary ship of knowledge with me on this pre-Halloween special for all you all is Chris Jacobs. And let me tell you what, we got a doozy for you today. It's going to be a fun one. We're going to talk about everything creepy, everything mythological in between the Halloween and all the things that go into the month of October, really. Spirit energies are high around this time, and many people that don't even associate themselves, with the paranormal or the spiritual field. I'm a firm believer everybody, can feel these energies. It's just the mythology surrounding the holiday. Trick or treating, you don't even have to believe in all this stuff. You can just get excited for some of the things that are associated with Halloween. But, it's way more than trick or treating, though, getting free candy. There's so many glorious and amazing things that you can talk about when it comes to mythology. And Halloween, is the main holiday. Halloween and Christmas, wouldn't you say, Chris? That
Oh yeah, most definitely.
mythology is kind
Well,
of
most
rampant.
definitely, the mythology definitely surrounds Halloween and Christmas, combined. You have the beginnings of Halloween, which was started with the pagan rituals, and you have the pagan rituals starting Christmas too. So you
Mm-hmm.
got it's all kind of one thing. You had Samhain, the Samhain, and it
Mm-hmm.
became Halloween after the Christians fused All Hallows Eve with it. So yeah,
And which we'll talk about a little bit today, which I,
yeah,
I, I may have come across that statement, that phrase before. Samhain, I think, is how it's pronounced now.
Samhain, yeah, yeah.
And which, just like Chris said, he summed it up pretty good. But we're going to get into that a little bit and other mythologies surrounding Halloween. Do you want to start us off, Chris, today with whatever you have in order here? Let
Oh
me know.
yeah, yeah. I know. So our topic is like witchcraft, spells, alchemy, things of that nature. And granted, this is a very broad topic, but at the same time, I'll refine it to maybe some things I personally have experience with.
Mm-hmm.
Just like with crystals and stones, for instance, there's alchemies behind that. Whether they heal, whether they pull like disease from you, whether they protect, what have you. Like say black tourmaline, for instance, that's for healing.
Mm.
uh, and then you have shungite, our main staple, which is another protector. It tends to take the radiation from the 5G and transmute it. Amber is another main staple of ours. We have this everywhere, and that heals and grounds. Hematite, which is mixed with our shungite here, also grounds and heals, so and protects all three. One of the main things that we use all these for is our orgone pieces. The only ones I have are, of course, our amber pieces. This
Mm-hmm.
sparkly one that I have sitting here that we did. This is for healing, for putting up against the thymus and the chest for healing and transmuting purposes. And well, the alchemy is involved in a lot of these things. People know that we make all the orgone pieces. We make the land clearing mixtures, the liquids, different plants such as sage, such as rosemary, such as like Palo Santo. These are all good for clearing and cleansing. Salts, we use those all the time for protection. Even outside our window right here, I have like 3 or 4 little piles of protective salts. Um, and the alchemies involved in a lot of these things are quite extensive. One of the main things, though, that I had to do very recently to get rid of a bunch of entanglements surrounding, like, say, business, surrounding friends, surrounding different energies, entanglements that maybe didn't belong in that ourselves in a much larger group, is what's called a binding ritual. And this is not for the faint of heart. This is not one that a novice would do. But I'll explain it anyway. But this what we did was we had this is based on old witchcraft, where as you take a crystal, like a good sized one, maybe one about maybe about that big, uh, not like that, and you put it in a red cloth like this, and you have this bundle opened up, and you put like iron nails, which also are supposed to ward off or shred negative energies. You put in pieces of an animal like bones, antler, things of that nature. I put in some of my clearing powders, which involved magnetics and shungite and amber, frankincense, and myrrh and the like. I put all of that in there. And I even put a silver coin in there and various other little stones and other little baubles, nails, things of that nature. And I basically told these energies, now, anything that is basically harming our abundance and our livelihood and also our physical bodies, our spirit, anything like that, any entanglements are now then bound into that bundle. And then I poured some of my alcohol liquid over it, with the sage liquids and the lavenders and everything over it. And I put the different plants with it and sealed it. What happened was, when I then declared that all of this was bound into it, all dimensions, expressions, and timelines, I went into it, collapsing, evading timelines, and multiversal, omniversal, super omniversal situations. And then I declared it all sealed and grounded in there, so mote it be, essentially. Is how I did it. I'm not saying the exact thing because I don't want somebody screwing this up somewhere, but I mixed it up a little bit so somebody wouldn't completely do it. As a novice does it, they could really harm somebody. But then I saw, this was creepy. This was the majorly creepy part. This is the Halloweeny part that comes through. I had this bowl with this bundle sitting outside. And you don't want to do this in a house. This is like fork in a light socket moment right here, folks. I saw this big entanglement coming through the door that looked like a big worm with a bunch of hands sticking out of it. And this was weird. I can see into a certain frequency perception. Some people can't, And I saw this big entanglement just enter this trap. And I also put some of our amber traps in there too, like 3 of these guys in with it too. These will transmute and suck all that junk in. What happened was, all of this went in there and it just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. Eventually it stopped after about an hour and a half. So I was sitting there watching this, freaking out as I'm seeing this thing just go for the trap. And then it stopped as quickly, like really quickly, right at the end of that. And then I noticed this bowl with this bundle in it was very heavy. I mean, it felt physically heavy, and it felt energetically heavy. Like I was picking up a lead, like cannonball or something. And a couple days later, we went and buried this out in the wilderness. And we were told buried out in the wilderness. And we were also told in the future, if we would have to do such a thing, it had to be done near the site you buried it, not at your house. So, or else you have all this crud just coming into your environment.
Attracting to you.
Yeah. And even though I had it outside, I had it out in the sunlight and everything. Didn't matter. It went right through the front door of the house. Whatever is considered the main entry point, it comes in. So if you don't have a main entry point, you're out in the wilderness. It just piles down in like this.
It makes me think of those spirits from like Ash versus Evil when they follow the Necronomicon up to the cabin in the woods, just like
exactly
attached to a certain object.
They can attach to, these energies can attach to a certain object. If you imbue an object with a certain set of words, like if I were to take, like we said in the previous one with cursed objects, where you can imbue an object of any kind. This is why you hear about magical objects like swords, daggers, knives, dolls, like dead bodies, tombs, remains, any of these types of things, where you literally, through intention, people can imbue something on an area or within an object. Or if I say that a certain being is trapped in a certain thing, which I don't do, by the way, I want to make that clear. I don't do that to other beings. Demons, I have done this. I got rid of them through the written word too. I've trapped them within a script too. What happens is then that object, you can either choose to destroy it through fire, or you can bury it in the earth. And what happens is also another form of magic is through writing, like the main thing, like spelling. What you
Incantations?
Yeah, incantations. I used to do this before I knew to chop demons' heads off, or before I could just go with a selenite sword. What I did was I would trap them within a script, a never-ending loop, and they would just kind of fizzle out and die within this loop. And people want a beautiful example of this, the movie Wes Craven's New Nightmare. A beautiful example of that type of scripting loop. And it works beautifully. If you don't know how to maybe kill a demon, you write a scenario by which then they lose their power within a looped fictional scenario, and you trap them within the words and then close the notebook and trap them in there, and then eventually maybe in time you'll end up having to burn that narrative. But that is a very quick way for anybody who is just getting into this, wants to purge a demon from a house. Very, very quick way of doing it. If you're good at any sort of poetic verse. If that's a talent of yours, you have a means to clear a property. Manifesting is one of the bigger ones. The reverse of this, manifesting, where you create a spell. Whereas you can literally write the pinpoints of something you want to happen in your life. You know, like if you want a certain type of house or a certain type of yard or an area or something like that, you write down the requirements of this, and then you can even type it out and print it out from your computer. Fold the piece of paper, put a candle on it on an altar space, and leave it. Don't touch it for like a year. You'll find out that at least some of what's on that list has come true.
And he's just picking up on one form of a personal spell you can use to better your life. You know, like anything, there's white and dark magic both. And, you know, I would dabble in both, you know, more white than dark, you know, but I don't believe in unleashing evil. You know, I believe in the betterment of good, but I believe that there's powers to be had in both forms.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. One of the darkest things that is happening, to go on the flip side of the spectrum. Actually, before I do that, I'll just say you can also write your entanglements, anything you don't like in your life, on another list and burn it too. That's that's the light magic. The dark magic side of the spectrum. Not that the binding one didn't have its dark applications, but you have also witches that would put pins in animal skulls to use as protector devices. They put them in crawl spaces. This is why,
kind of like a voodoo doll.
And voodoo doll people, this is why people found skulls and stuff in crawl spaces with pins in them and stuff like that. Those were witches' protective devices. But the darker end of the spectrum, of course, can be voodoo doll, and also can be something called karma dumping. This is one of the worst sleazy magic tricks I have ever come across. Whereas you take, like, if you're a dark magician, say for instance, I came across a client's case where this person had met with this wizard or warlock type person to get, a blessing. Well, this person did this, but the client then all of a sudden his life just went downhill. He lost all of his finances. He lost all of this. And he found out this other guy gained all of these finances, gained a lot of abundance, owned a couple of yachts, owned a bunch of cars, had a real big mansion, all this other stuff. But what this guy did was he took any encumbrances. That's why I should have said you eliminate in the burn list as encumbrances. You take encumbrances, you swap out your karmic, well, people say karmic debt, but it's more like swapping out a timeline or an effects of something you do. You end up, you should be paying for it karmically. You dump that onto someone else, you've turned them into a patsy. And you've basically then you take whatever the good they had and dump all the crap onto them. And it's a swap out, and it's a very sleazy trick that is out there prolifically right now with dark magicians, very prolifically. And it's a form of a curse, and it is actually a curse. And usually when you notice it and you think you actually truly notice that some of these things have been cursed on you like that, you can start to undo them. But that is beware, people listening to this, beware of any of these dark witches and stuff that are out there that are doing this, because not just the ones that are basically charging you an exorbitant amount and doing very little. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people that they seem kind, they seem genuine, and then they're doing within the energy work, they're doing this karma swapping. What also the voodoo doll, the point you were making, this can be used for good and evil. You take a doll, like you can make anything. It could be anything made up from a friggin' pillowcase. You can take a handkerchief and make one. It doesn't matter at that point. You have these little dots that show the meridians, the energy meridians and lines to the body. You can take blue headed pins. Like you can use any sewing pins you can get from any store, Walmart you can get them from. As long as you bless them and stuff beforehand or enchant them beforehand. They work. And you take the blue pins will open up the meridians. the red ones will hurt the person. Or if you dip the pin in fire and stick it in them, that burns them. But you have to have a lock of their hair or something they got some body fluid of some kind on it or something like that. You can enchant anything to become a voodoo doll. Anything. It's not just like the standard, like the
Classic voodoo doll.
Yeah, the classic one. You can make it out of anything. I could take like plant material outside. I could take a pillowcase, stuff it, and draw the line meridians on, put the person's name on it, and stab the thing. So as long as you enchant it. I'm not recommending. This is another not recommended.
Keep going.
Okay, yeah, this is another not recommended type of scenario. In this is very dangerous to do. This is extremely not recommended. So
One similar to that.
yeah. I've seen ones that actually look similar to that. Yeah, but you can use them for healing too.
Chris, I love you.
That's creepy. Okay, yeah, but is that an actual voodoo doll? Is that an actual voodoo doll?
Yeah, I got it in New Orleans. I thought you'd like to see that.
Oh yeah, that's interesting, and so that is interesting. And New Orleans is full of these types of magics, from vampiric magic to white witches to all of that. It's completely full of that. And one of the mysteries that I came across was involving the color red. This is something that was baffling me. Like, you take a red handkerchief and you can cover a crystal ball or a screen or something with it to prevent, or a mirror to prevent beings from coming through it. But yet these beings were red. And like I said, the red pins for a voodoo doll were harmful. So I looked into this a little further, and there's an inverted frequency value of red that the demonic sources use. Or like, say you have a fire djinn or a fire demon that is, red in color or orange in color. I'm going, okay, what is weird about this? I found out the pure red, the pure frequency value of the color red is inverted from what they possess. And so that's why red works so well, because it's canceling that out.
While you're on that topic, I'm going to be sharing some stuff because symbols are our topic today. And this is a book, the Illustrated Signs and Symbols Source Book from A to Z by Adele Nozadar. And while he's on red, I'm just going to read you a little symbolic meaning of red. Vitality and life force, fire, the sun, the south, blood, good luck and prosperity, power and authority, masculine energy, war and anger, passion, energy, and sexuality. It's one of the three primary colors. Bright red pops out of whatever environment it happens to be in and grabs our attention more than any other color. Moreover, it is the first actual color that is seen by babies. Because it has a lower vibrational frequency than any other color in our visible spectrum, it is associated with the base chakra and symbolizes passion, sexual fertility, and animal urges. Red light districts are so called because of the dim red shades of the prostitutes' quarters. Red is the color of blood, which means it is associated with the life forces and vitality. Hunters dab themselves in red blood of the kill, which they believe will give them the empathy with the spirit of the animal. And how often do we see that in Native American lore and things of that nature? Thank the animal, thank its spirit for giving you life and spirit, basically. And that's basically kind of it. But you can kind of understand how, like, he's talking about the color of red. It's very powerful when it comes to the spiritual world, and it can attract and repel, and it's very powerful, I guess, in layman's terms.
This is why red roses, also, if you have them growing in your yard, can repel different evil sources. Colorful flowers will too. Even different blues, I've noticed. I've thrown like blue calcite outside that repels certain types of entities. Now, the Tibetan monks have those colored flags they have hanging up all over the place.
Yep.
Perfect. One of the best protective things I've seen that's cloth based, because it has not only the spell, but it has all the color spectrum on it.
I think I remember reading an article one time about, I don't think they're just there for visual cues, but like repelling spirits on Mount Everest, maybe. Like I see these red flags and stuff like that, I can't remember exactly, but I know I've heard something of that nature at some point at some mountain range where they use it to repel, evil spirits on the mountainside.
Yep, that's exactly it. The red, I noticed this. We covered a mirror, a big mirror in our bedroom with a red sheet. And we knew this mirror. If people want to see the reference on our YouTube, we have a video up called The Thousand Orb Mirror. And one of the creepiest things when we were in her house in Knightdale, North Carolina, I filmed a video of hundreds, if not thousands, of mirrors or orbs coming out of the mirror. It was essentially a portal. That's how a lot of mirrors are used as portals. For one, we can use like salt pucks that we make to block entry, or sea salt, bowls of sea salt with little bits of hematite and stone in there to put in front of a mirror. But what I did, I made those portable like these, and I put them in front of mirrors so people can just move them around if they had to. What happened was after this, we noticed that nothing could cross it, but things could see us through it. And so what I did was I just got the idea of this was last year around Christmas time. This actually took place. This was more of an epiphany on our part. I had a crystal ball that sat on this shelf up here. I have a rose quartz one that sits up there now, but I had an actual bona fide crystal ball up there, a real one, a legitimate like clear quartz one, and it is essentially a gazing ball. You can see things through it like a lens. It can connect dimensionally, like you'd expect a crystal ball to do. But this also does not mean that something else cannot hijack it unless you find a way to block it. But when I had that up there, I was wondering why things were going wrong in our house. I couldn't pinpoint what the entry point was. My mother discovered it was the crystal ball. She discovered deep inside the crystal, she saw this green triangle, which is usually an alien or Orion symbol. It was an upside down green triangle. We knew they were looking through it like a gazing ball. Like in Lord of the Rings, where Gandalf picks up the gazing ball that Saruman was using. He picks it up, he takes a cloth, and he goes, "We don't know who could be gazing," and then picks it up and wraps it up. And I'm thinking, okay, let's try that. And it's an old witch's trick. He put the red cloth over. The next day was Christmas Day. After this was Christmas Eve when we discovered the next day was Christmas Day. And when I came walking into this office, just before we went off to my mother's place, there was this stench in the room of like sulfur, and all of a sudden this demonic entity came up out of the floor. I could clearly see it. It was like mostly visible to my human eyes. It wasn't like it was invisible or you could just sense it. I could literally see it. Came up and tried to horn me in the arm with the head horn, because it had these larger horns. Tried to nailed my light body. It didn't nail the physical body, but it nailed the light body. My mother had to fix, like any wound, had to disinfect and everything like you would in your physical body. Got rid of the wound, got rid of the demon before that, but we found out they were mad, or who these particular ones were working for. These were more foot soldier types that I saw. These big ones with the horns and the fangs and everything. Those were more foot soldier. The crystal ball, whoever their boss was watching us through it. And when we discovered how to cover it, they got mad. They got even madder when we covered the Thousand Orb Mirror and the TV screen with red cloth. And I would recommend anybody do that have large mirrors in the house, like a vanity or a large TV screen. Take a large red sheet. You can get them from Walmart. They're like this blood red color.
Cover it when you're not using it.
Yeah, cover it when you're not using it. When you go to bed, you will see a major difference or feel a major difference. There's more of a calm. Even if you're not into energy sensitivity like myself, you'll be able to sleep better and all that. Then have the salt in front of it too, but the salt just blocks entry. It does not block sight. So
I've kind of noticed this isn't a total 180 on the question, but the little crystal head that you gave me, I always forget the name.
The skull. Oh yeah. You have the selenite skull. That one had a being in it by the name of Samuel.
Yeah, Samuel.
I would recommend also taking like a little handkerchief.
Well, I was going to ask, my main question with Samuel is that I've noticed at times, when I'm lying awake at night, it glows. Like it'll have
I noticed
minor
that
glow.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Somebody had
It's
to
kind of
put
eerie.
paint over it. Yeah. It's selenite, but it does glow, and selenite normally doesn't glow like that. So it's like I thought that was a little weird. Yeah, somebody had to put like glow paint or a thin layer of glow cellophane like paint over it. I've seen people do that with crystals and stuff before. It's like a cellophane they kind of paint over. It's
Special
weird.
effect.
Yeah, like a special effect. But I would recommend, though, it would not in use. Crystal skulls fall under this category as well. Like you just take one of these and just cover it when it's not in use. Yeah.
And that leads me to my next question. That's why I asked that. Are there any crystals that like might glow with certain incantations and spell bindings, or what's the magical properties with some of these crystals that you can think of off the top?
Oh yeah, yeah. There are some that will. I've seen crystals glow if you imbue it with enough energy. Like you can program a clear crystal to do anything. Like you have to instruct a crystal. People think that a clear crystal will just protect. No, they can get infiltrated if you don't protect them. It is the other way around. You have to basically instruct it to stay completely pure and protective of a property or heal or what have you. Now, with the other stones that have like other properties, like black tourmaline, like this, for instance, this is for healing. This is for a specific task. Or bloodstone is for healing. Or you have patchy tear that's for entity banishment and stuff like that, which is this. Or silver coins that are like for entity banishment and protection. Clear quartz, though, you must keep it protected. It's the other way around. People don't always understand this. The new age crowd always seems to think, oh, this is for protection. That's fine if you have that intention, but you have to imbue it. You have to basically say, no, you are for this. Now, selenite, like your skull, is for disentangling. Like I have these selenite knives. Cool. Yeah. I use these for cleaning the aura and stuff like that. And also, I have a larger one here for getting a demon's head removed. Yeah.
Jeez, I think that you could probably somebody breaking into your door, you might be able to stab them with it.
Oh yeah, you could use that as a real weapon, but selenite is great for doing.
And they'll have broken shards of crystal in their body.
Oh yeah, exactly. Selenite is a royal bitch if you get a shard of it stuck in you, because I stepped on a piece one time in my bare foot and it jabbed up into my foot, and all the fibers got stuck up in there, and Joanna had to remove it. So it's like, think of that. But in the etheric, if you nail something negative with that, it's kind of the same effect, with that. And you can carry this into, like, if you astral project, or if you bilocate, like what I do when I do my sessions and find a demon and I cut its head off. I actually am turning it into a lightsaber and cutting its head off, essentially. And selenite is one of the only ones I've noticed you can do that. So,
but don't get it wet.
Huh?
Don't get it wet. Doesn't it deteriorate if you get it wet? Selenite.
Yes, and that's actually sometimes a good thing. Like if you're trying to, like, I did this trick with a piece of shungite. I'll show it on the camera here, or a couple pieces of shungite. I had it in my rock tumbler. This was a dry tumble, mind you. I had this in my rock tumbler, and see how it's all embedded in this piece of shungite, the selenite. And I also other stones in a wet tumble will embed this way. See this selenite. That particular, that's one I gave you, I believe. Yeah. And then I have, like, see this piece of shungite here, where you see all the little like powder embedded in it there. And you see a little bit of brown. That's from cat's eye that got embedded in there. But there's some quartz and some selenite that got embedded in there. That was wet tumble. What wet does to selenite is you like if you were to soak it in a jar of water. Alcohol works too. But if you take some powder, put it in water, and you have a crystal in there with it, it will eventually it will adhere to the crystal, and you pull the crystal out, let it dry, and you'll have the chunks of the selenite all embedded and dried on it like a candle, like a melted candle. And it adds a protective layer to it. So if you also want to protect a property, here's a good tip. Take selenite powder, fling it on your walkway, going in and out. Salt does this too, of course, but sea salt and black Himalayan salt and regular Himalayan salt. With black witch's salt works incredibly well too. But the selenite, if the pavement gets wet, it goes into the concrete. And also, if you were to make selenite liquid, with it melting, pour it on the concrete, and it will stay in the concrete. Eventually, you will have like a selenite walkway going into your home, and it'll disentangle your feet from
That's
negative
kind of
energies as you
cool.
go out. Yeah, it's really cool. It looks really creepy at first when you start pouring white liquid all over your concrete. But,
Well, it's almost kind of like, protecting your home type of a spell.
Yeah, it is. Oh, I use that all the time. I use different salts. I use a salt here. I'll show everybody that I get quite often. It's called black winter salt. And it's this one here. The guy in Cornwall makes this stuff right here. And very well done. So if he's watching this is excellent stuff. And
looks like it.
He has, I believe he has coal, sulfur, bitumen, which is asphalt, and he has dead sea salt in there, or white sea salt in there, and mixed it all up in here. And people think, well, isn't sulfur associated with demon? Well, yes, that's because Draco reptilians walk through old lava tubes and they stink of sulfur, and that's what's around. That's the horned ones. Well, one of the types anyway. That could be for a different show. But what happens is you take the salt and the bitumen, and you take the sulfur, and you take the other ingredients that are in it, and it becomes almost like a scrubbing bubble effect where it's constantly trying to clear itself. Wonderful clearing item right here. This guy did a fantastic job with this, but when he added sulfur to the mix, and he added graveyard dirt in there too, and you would think, well, isn't that a haunted type of location? It helps because, again, by itself it'd have a negative energy, but you have something like other salts mixed in there, and it's constantly trying to scrub the other thing, and it's always moving. The energetic molecules are always moving, and that's one of the best things I run into. This guy's on Etsy. He runs a company called Zugans, and it's actually very, 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 very good. I use it in all of my salt mixes that I put around the house. And we've had to double, quadruple protect this house. Even in front of this window, I have piles of it sitting right outside here. And it's rained a whole lot. I've had to replace a lot of the salt outside, but I put it at the end of the driveway on either side. And I also mix black Himalayan salt and black, lava salt in there. And a really good mixture. I take a jar and shake it up and then pour it outside. And it wonderful protector for the house.
Well, let's get into a little bit of Samhain, why don't we?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Let's go do. Let me get all my stuff ready here. Let's go here. Let's go back down here.
I know that was a mouthful, but that's about what we've had to do.
Oh no, it's very interesting. Yeah, you actually summed it up quite well. I actually learned some stuff about crystals I didn't know there myself. So it's very interesting. Trying to figure out my dang screen share here. I'm kind of
it's come from many fork and light socket moments. Just trust me on that one.
I bet. Just as long as you weren't eating any paint chips.
No. That probably came before we did the spells, but that's why we always say that, like the line from Dr. Strange, the warning should be written before the spells. So that's what we try to do. We try to present a solution along with the spells when we talk about it.
And speaking of solution, I found my solution. I was accidentally trying to screen share our video screen that we're videoing on instead of an internet page. Whoopsie daisy. That was definitely a trick in the trick or treat bag, wasn't it? Let me go
Brain
here.
fart. Yeah, there we go.
Now this is Samhain, everybody, and this is a article from Demi Whitnell from HeroMagazine.com. And Samhain Eve, a witch's guide to celebrating Halloween. So think of some of the things that you learned from Chris and I here just a little bit ago. You're going to have to research your own and experiment, actually do the field time to experiment and dabble with all this. We can tell you, but until you do it yourself, you're not going to have that,
Yeah, be careful, but some experiences may be fork and light socket moments or penny and light socket moments, but it's worth learning the trade.
Yes, and he shared with you many protection spells that are pretty simple. Just the classic old sprinkle salt across your front door. I mean, these things exist for a reason. They may sound, dim-witted and useless, but there's power behind all this ancient knowledge, most definitely. And Samhain, here we are, October 31st. You know it is Halloween, but to witches, it is Samhain Eve. Samhain, literally translating to end of summer, is one of the biggest festivals in the Wiccan calendar, a time of remembrance of those we've lost and a celebration of summer's death and winter's birth. Like I said, there's all these energies going on. So we have, fall and summer and winter, all these, the transitioning of days, they're becoming shorter, it's becoming cooler, everything's starting to die. And nature has its own energy, and then there's all this stuff, spirit energy wise, that's going on with every single living human, walking, breathing zombie, human, whatever you want to call it, that walks this earth. And so the sun god and earth fall into a slumber, the nights lengthen and the air becomes crisp and winter begins. Background: October 31st is known as one of two spirit nights, the other being Beltane, a magical interval when the laws of time and space are suspended. Samhain Eve sees the veil between worlds at its thinnest, facilitating communication between ancestors and departed loved ones. And Chris, this is why we would always do our ghost hunts around this time of year. Try to cram pack a lot in the month of October and September and November. Those those 3 months right there, where all these energies are transitioning and dying, is a perfect time to go out and discover what strange things you might be able to come across. But originally, Samhain was known as the Feast of the Dead. It is a Sabbath holiday celebrated in Celtic countries by leaving offerings on altars and doorsteps of the dead who have returned to their previous homes. And this practice is still carried out in certain places. Extra chairs were left out for loved ones to sit around the family table. Apples were buried along roadsides for lost spirits without descendants to lead them, and turnips were hollowed out and carved to look like protective spirits. Pranks were also a common practice, which in where the phrase trick or treat originates from, alongside the tradition of dressing up in costume. And see, a lot of people like to laugh at things like, feasting for the dead, but I can't think of anything more genuine to celebrate your past loved ones. People, a lot of people laugh it off, it's just ridiculous.
But it
I
has
don't
its
know why
origins
people.
in legitimacy. Like the East Indian tribes or East Indian people will take an effigy and put food in front of it too, of passed on loved ones and the gods too. So.
Uh, so pranks were also common practice where the phrase trick or treat originates from, alongside the tradition of dressing up in costumes. So symbols of this season, apples, black cats, jack-o'-lanterns, herbs, mugwort, allspice, catnip, oak leaf, sage, broom, and deadly nightshade. Foods: turnips, apples, all the things that go along with fall, basically. I see pork and poultry here, and beef. Colors: black, orange, white, silver, gold. It's just amazing. That's why we all decorate up this time of year. That's why we start sharing ghost stories, because I don't think it's just about, the funness and, of Halloween. It's really about getting into your own spirit also, and what else is out there abroad. So how to celebrate Samhain? The first easy way to celebrate Samhain is to build a bonfire, which we try to do as a tradition on a yearly basis. And I always read the Raven. Do you have a Halloween tradition, Chris? I don't mean to keep interrupting the article, but we're trying to pick up with this article. And
Yeah. What we try to do, even though we've been kind of lapsed on it the past couple of years. I try to film, let's say, or do the burning of something that doesn't serve, like say an old photograph that doesn't serve, or some symbolizing getting rid of energies that don't serve. I do this on the winter solstice as well, to show burn something that does not serve. We have we've made a small little fire pit out here on the rocks. Even though you're not supposed to do it here, I still have a small place where I burn incense. I do stuff of that nature, and also. I try to keep the energies balanced around here, like I usually do. But I try to form more of a release time frame.
And it's important to have a tradition like that. In fact, if you do, I want you to comment your Halloween tradition. What do you always do on Halloween, other than just give candy out to kids and dress up? Is there anything that you particularly enjoy to do on that day that you might not tell anybody that you like to do? You're more than welcome to share anything you want with us here. So to get back into it, real quick, to finish this one off, is to create a bonfire. The most honored Samhain traditions. The fire symbolizes the welcoming of winter. And Chris, picking up on red, that would be appropriate time to do your spell incantations with whatever you might decide that you want to do, and practice white magic more than dark if you're going to, but be
Yes,
responsible
most
with
definitely.
both. You can begin your evening by communing with your departed loved ones through the fire. Invite friends and family to join you and create a welcoming space for the deceased. Hold hands around the fire and embrace its warmth. You may also sing and dance, inviting the spirits to celebrate with you. Telling stories around the fire is also common, either special memories you have had of your loved ones or spooky stories of the dead or supernatural. If you're not able to build a bonfire, use candlelight instead to welcome the new season. Having a silent supper to honor the dead is more somber and respective Samhain tradition, which I agree. Leave a chair out for the spirits to sit with you while you feast, and perhaps even make a spare meal for them. Now that might sound a little silly, and that might not be everybody's cup of tea, but do what you want. Firstly, make your dining space sacred. Use sage to cleanse the area and remove all distractions such as your phones or TVs. And I want to pick up on sage right there because all these things intermix, and that's why we have to interrupt. Is the next topic I'm going to talk about after this, which is also my tradition with a bonfire on Halloween, is to burn incense. And Chris, you mentioned it earlier. Palo Santo is probably my favorite one overall, even more so than sage, personally, to burn for incense. And there's all different kinds, and that's a whole nother topic in itself, which you personally are just going to have to research and decide which you want to burn for whatever purpose you want to use it and whatever smells you like. But I'm going to skip ahead a little bit just in lieu of time. I want to go back to down to the living here. It says finally connect with the living. Samhain is, of course, not only about the dead, but about life too. Work on relationships that seem to be failing. Check up on old friends and spend time celebrating Samhain with others. Learn about your roots as well. Connect with your family tree. Perhaps look over old family photographs or watch home movies, or this time of season, horror movies. Whether you're in the broom closet or out and about, which Samhain is an easy Sabbath to celebrate as it coexists with Halloween and many other traditions across the world. Celebrate your loved ones, dead and alive. Play pranks on one another. Indulge in great food and take some time to speak to the divine for guidance throughout the winter season. I think that's amazing. That's what it's all about, baby, right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good article. That gal did a good job.
That's actually excellent. That's a very good descriptor of what to do around that time frame. People always like to associate it with just going around dressing up and getting candy and all that from it. I know we diverted from the spells,
which is fun.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite Halloween candy?
That there's actually, I would have to say, we just get like a bag of the mixed chocolates, like the Snickers and the Reese's cups and stuff like that in it. We get the mixed bag of those, but the favorite out of all those, I have to say, is more like either Milky Way, or I would have to say like Three Musketeers.
Nice. I like it when people go outside the box and you kind of get like those funky candies, like a gummy hamburger or something like that. The one-off candies that are in there, whatever it may be. Again, comment your favorite Halloween candy down below too. But as you were saying,
just like you said a couple of years back, though, on the lifting show we did, people don't give out little Bibles. That's just creepy. There you go.
No, I mean that's unique, but give me a piece of candy. I have a King James Arthur version right here at home, baby. Thou shaltest give me Halloween candy now.
Exactly. I know, folks, this isn't the Halloween show, but what's we're leading into this. But yeah, anything you want to prepare in this time frame.
That's why we're doing these two pre-Halloween shows for you. Really, we consider them pre-Halloween shows because one was cursed objects. A lot of people are antiquing, garage selling this time of year. Be aware of what the hell you're buying or what you might already have in your home. And then this one here, the spirits are building up. The spirit energies are building up. We're trying to give you tools and tactics to not only get into this field if you've always been interested, but to really learn what you can do to protect yourself, protect your home, dabble within the spirit realm, and just kind of the beginning and intermediate phases of what you might expect, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And also know that there's a mixture of things that come through the veil on during this time. The Samhain or Samhain or Samhain, however you want to pronounce it, that come through this time of year. Know that sometimes the Christians like to claim it. This is how it became Halloween. But you had Samhain or Samhain, but it had the EEN at the end. And then you had All Hallows Eve, which was technically Halloween going into November 1st, which is All Hallows Day. Then what happened is the Christian religion wanted to put their own thing in there, so it eventually said All Hallows Eve. And eventually it became Halloween. So you have that's basically kind of the historical etymology behind the word Halloween. It's a fusion of both pagan and Christian. And so is Christmas. You have Santa Claus and his reindeer is essentially Odin and his eight-legged horse, and you have Santa and his building elves, which were the builders of the Bifrost and the weapons of the gods in Norse mythology. So see where it came from. It had all of its origins in pagan, and the Christians just hijacked it after a while.
They're all stealing and nabbing and going back and forth with one another. It just and there's powers with everything, there's powers in all those aspects, that's just too crazy a field to get into. But whatever religion, whatever you believe in, whatever God, whatever the hell it is that you idolize, I guess, whatever idol, there's power to be had in all of them, whether they're all real, whether they're all fake, whether some are real, whether some are fake. That's the ultimate divine question I think everybody has had at some point in their life. But that just ramps up, even what we're talking about now, whatever you practice, incorporate that into this time of year, because for certain energies are high this time of year, no matter what you believe in, no matter what you practice. So you can find the weird and strange this time of year, most definitely, whatever it is that you're into.
Oh yeah, whatever it is you're into. Another also origin of Christmas is Saturnalia, which eventually was the Roman holiday, which was a pagan holiday, but also it became Saturn. The word Saturn became Satan afterward, opposing the church or oppose her. But so there is the negative satanic, and there's the positive ones that are just opposing or atheists of the church, essentially. But that's where some of that came in. Isaac was reminding me to add the Saturnalia thing in there too. But we may be at a spot where we can actually either bring him in or whomever is going to speak.
Let me I'm going to talk about
sure.
actually, yeah, how about I'll read about these and then I can ask him about those as well.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, most definitely.
Let's go over one more thing and then you can do your deed there, boy.
Do my deed, yes.
Yeah. As long as you don't wear yourself out from all the work that you've been doing.
It's fine. Actually, channeling gets easier as the solstices and the equinox times and Halloween time especially. Channeling is no more easier than it is for me than on Halloween, and also during the Samhain or Samhain time frame. It's actually quite easy because you have the central sun. This is what causes it. You have the central sun in the center of the galaxy. That is actually, we're closer to it than ever before during the Samhain or Samhain time frame. And it's also known as the harvest time frame, even though that has a negative connotation with the negative aliens harvesting energies. But at the same time, it's a time of year where the central sun is closer. Therefore, the veil is much thinner between dimensions and worlds. So that's how that happens. That's why that's so much easier around this time frame.
Yep, that's exactly why. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head right there. I'm going to talk about two more things real quick. Like I said, this is another passage from that Sign and Symbols book, which is an amazing book, whenever you want mind-opening basic knowledge. And sorry, I kind of been suffering from a cold for the first time, so I'm kind of getting a little bit of a dry throat, but bear with me.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah.
So incense, we were talking about that earlier. Burn whatever you want, research what kind you want, but this is some of the power associated with it. And I usually burn incense before I do like yoga, whenever I do yoga, to get myself in the mood, practice the selenite right here, maybe a little bit of a singing bowl to get your mind and body in tune, something along that line. But its origins in incendere, the Latin word for fire. The importance of incense as a magical symbol lies in the resins and spices that it's made from, its perfume, and the action of its smoke that rises up toward the sky. The smoke is believed to conduct prayers, messages, and devotions towards the deities. The scent is said to please the gods as well as lifting the spirits of worshippers. And the fact that frankincense was one of the three gifts given by the wise men to the infant Christ is a reminder of its significance. In Christianity, incense was first used in burials as a symbol of purity, and that would drive away demons and to carry the soul up to heaven. However, its use soon expanded, and today incense has a prominent part to play in rites of all kinds, especially within the Roman Catholic Church and the High Church of England. Neo-pagan groups too use incense for the same reasons. And see, these are all everything abroad. This has a form and faction with everything that's been talked about, basically. Burning of incense transcends faith and cultural boundaries. Right there it is. For Native Americans, the fragrant smoke given off by tobacco and other herbs when they share the calumet or pipe carries exactly the same significance as the incense that is burned in churches and the dupa or dope sticks of Hindu ritual. For Hindus, incense represents the element of air and the perception of the consciousness. The tower of smoke that rises up from the incense is symbolic of the axis mundi. Practitioners of ceremonial magic might use incense so that disembodied entities such as elementals or other spirits might use the smoke to make themselves manifest. So just burn incense on Halloween, everybody. Even if you just have trick-or-treaters knocking on the door, it'll give you that extra sense of of the times of the season. And then I want to jump into one more. I know we're kind of running short on time, but try to give everybody the most bang for their buck and most information possible. I wanted to talk about one other symbol, and that's the trident. You can even carry one whenever you're wearing a costume. Real quick for those, everybody should know what a trident looks like, but
yeah, the typical pitchfork. The church tried to say it was evil, like the symbol of the devil, but it's actually an Agarthan symbol. You have some people that live in the inner earth that actually use the trident, and also mer people are famous, like Aquaman is famous for having a trident.
Oh, yes, yeah, exactly. And there's a prime example for when it comes to a costume. He gave it right there. So Aquaman, but then there's hidden symbology behind it. It's just not a trident, a three pronged staff, basically, and that's not a piece of gum either. So not trident gum. They'll give you a pretty smile, but that's it. Show your vampire teeth off. But anyhow, once again, this is what the trident looks like. Everybody should know, but for those that want a general depiction fresh in their brains, there it is. So the trident, or they call it trisula? Is that what they used to call it? Trisula? It's a long staff or pole topped by three prongs. Whoever wields a trident wields great power, although this power might take different forms. And just think of the power of Aquaman, an underwater superhero. The trident is the symbol of the Hindu god Shiva, whose followers wear a trident-like tilaka symbol on their faces. In the hands of Shiva, the trident represents the three phases of time, past, present, and future, or possibly heaven, earth, and hell. The trident has its own hand gesture, or mudra, too, called the Trishula Astra. In the hands of Poseidon or Neptune, the trident has a practical use since it emulates the shape of one of the earliest fishing implements. Poseidon uses it to control the seas, so it's a symbol of authority. Because of its association with water, the trident is the alchemical symbol for this element, which is why Aquaman probably has one. Where a trident has three prongs of even length, it is a secret symbol of the cross of Christianity. However, Satan is often seen carrying the souls in hell with a trident. It is likely that he is depicted with it in order to associate himself with the pre-Christian gods who used it. This versatile three-pronged tool is also a fire symbol. The prongs look like flames, and it is therefore a symbol of the thunderbolts and lightning. As such, many of the sky gods carry a trident too. These include Thor of Norse mythology. So very interesting when it comes to combining everything we've talked about today. And we're not done yet. Chris, if you want to channel through what I'll talk about next, we'll elaborate off of, I believe.
Okay, yeah, that's fascinating with the trident. It's also a powerful symbol. This is why the church wanted to denigrate it as evil. you see it had that power. They say, oh, it's the pitchfork, the devil, and a lot of the Garthan tribes that are in the inner earth carry these staff weapons, like either one prong. Some have like this one prong spear like one with like a little crystal light on the top, and some have like almost like a halberd like guard at the top on some of them, or a crystal thing like staff like Gandalf would have, like a gnarled branch like one. Some of the elemental type groups have as well, like with a glowing orb in the center, or you have the other ones like a lot of the Myrmidon that I've come across on the East Coast. Every single one of them has a trident like Aquaman. That's why I use the Aquaman reference, because the Myrmidon is one of the oldest groups on the planet that actually they go back to ancient Greek mythology, also during the Trojan War when Achilles called on the Myrmidon to help him conquer Troy. So they were like the special forces of the day. People consider the Spartans to be the special forces, but these guys, the Myrmidon, when they were on land, they were essentially like our Black Ops. So like you see Aquaman in the movie Aquaman, where he's like essentially like a soldier. So it's essentially the same thing that's been historically. So
very interesting.
Yeah, I always thought they're very telepathic, very they're very communicative, but sometimes they're very judgmental of humans, though, about like the garbage and the pollution and all of this other stuff.
Why wouldn't you be?
Yeah, they're very angry with people. I know that much. When I've spoken to them, I had to kind of warm up to them doing the telepathy with them, because they were very picky about certain communications, certain energies, and garbage, of course. Why wouldn't you?
And I don't mean to interrupt again. Springtime is a rebirth area as well, but this is honestly my favorite time of the year to make my New Year's resolution, sort of a deal. That way you kind of pre-do it, or you pre-make it and you follow through with it. And we all can follow out and get out of what we've, thought of as routine. And now is an excellent time to tell yourself to whatever it is that you want to do. It's time to start focusing on that right now. And with the energies being as high and rampant as they are, there's no perfect time to whatever personal goal that you want to start, achieving towards, whatever it is, start it now. But if you want to channel through, Chris, I think we'll dive on into this and we'll go out with a bang.
All right. All right. We'll get going with this. Okay, Isaac, you're going to be the one today, like you usually are, or is it someone else? He's saying that someone else will do our Halloween show. Because I was thinking, that would be appropriate to have like fairies or elementals or somebody for that one. But he's technically Isaac falls under the galactic and elemental category. But Isaac, if you wanna come through. Yeah, like I always tell people, I have a communications arc set up in the backyard where I have a skull that I made from shungite in my Tower Buster formula, and I have two communications arcs that have pipes that come up like this. People would think horns if they saw it. They think it was a skull with horns, but it's like, no, it means the stabs mean communications. So I ended up intuitively making those. I made Isaac's first. He communicates through that, and then he bounces through this one that's sitting here. I made this guy here, but
that looks cool.
Yeah, the turquoise. Turquoise is a good healing and protective stone as well. What I call an uncorruptible element. Shungite and silver fall under, and amber falls under uncorruptible elements too. So that would be a show in and of itself on uncorruptible and corruptible elements. So Isaac, if you want to come through. Yes, I'll shut up now. Okay. All right. He goes, well, if you'd shut the fuck up, I'd come in. Okay. All right. He does that to me constantly. So, okay. There's this really charged energy in the air today. It can cause a little bit of confusion if you're not ready for it. The Mercury retrograde's doing some of it too. So, at this time. So we're filming on 9/18/22, and we're still in Mercury retrograde. So, all right. Isaac, through the crystal, please, not my brain. All right. I always have to say that because then he does this. Like this, he creeps me out by doing this. So yeah. So or he'll touch my ears or do something like that. So yeah. Now, would I do a thing like that? Yes, I would. I do it quite often, even when he does not know about this in the middle of the night. So Since I do not have to sleep as often as he does, I can mess with them all I like. But at this time of year, it's much easier to do this. Some people would see me as more of a trickster or mischievous spirit or elemental. I tend to wear the latter a little bit with mischievous and play practical jokes on him in some degrees. You see, this is also something people have to watch out for going into this time frame. There are some that don't have the moral compass out there to save their own lives. You see, they tend to harm and hurt, but also there are some other mischievous elementals out there that do like to take things, play practical jokes, move objects around, very much like some of your ghosts do in some instances. But it's elementals that sometimes will take from one person and give to another. Think of it as a weird, slightly misguided Robin Hood complex at times. But it does work, especially if you gain favor of some elementals. They will take some, even money at times, from one set of people they don't like and give it to you if you've helped them out in some fashion. This has happened to himself as well, where he helped some elementals out in the city of Globe against some galactic forces, and they dropped $40 on his lap. This actually does happen, and this is true within the mythology and the exact context of the mythology says. This happens more so at this time of year than anything, because the communication is actually much easier. The communication arcs like the one he mentioned are not as needed during this time of year because of the more intensive energies and more conductivity during the Samhain time frame. You can ask me questions now if you like.
Yeah, I want to dive on into a couple of combined characters, I believe, the incubus and the succubus. And I just want to go over a little bit of information. Then I want you to elaborate off of these two on how to identify them in real life, and elaborate and delve into the mythology a bit. So first is the incubus. The incubus is a demon that takes the form of an attractive gentleman who seduces sleeping people, most frequently women, but sometimes men, and has sexual intercourse with them in the same way as female counterpart, the succubus. The creature sustains itself from the sexual energy released by this hapless partner at the point of orgasm, and repeated visits may even result in the death of the victim. So being screwed to death. The provenance of the incubus is an ancient, first appearing in the Mesopotamia as the character called Lilu, or the male counterpart of Lilith. Both incubi and succubi are not inherently male and female, but are able to shift into either form to assuage their prodigious sexual appetites. The female succubi can steal sperm from human men and turn into the incubi and use that same semen to impregnate women. So, it's just foul, sexual, misleading, deceptive, manipulative tactics. Sometimes these demons are able to conceive and give birth to children. The resulting offspring will naturally have supernatural powers, as well as being incredibly persuasive. Both the Shakespearean character Caliban and Merlin from the Arthurian tales are examples of such a hybrid called a cambion. And, its counterpart, the succubus, I won't dive into too much, but the bat-like wings, horns, and cloven hooves and forked tail are sometimes attributes of the succubus, or overlooked because of her beautiful and alluring appearance. The succubus is a type of demon that appears in the form of beautiful women that takes great pleasure in seducing men as they sleep, causing them to have sexual intercourse with her. The succubus apparently takes the most delight in abusing monks and other men of the cloth. So, scandalizing men of faith, basically. The sexual energy of the victim nourishes the succubi along the act, exhausts the man so thoroughly that he may even die as a result, being screwed to death. Lilith, the first wife of Adam, was effectively demonized because she failed to obey her husband and has been called a succubus. In the UK, some inns that date back to the 16th century still have the effigy of a succubus placed discreetly over the door. This was a secret symbol that the building was also a brothel. In the Middle East, the interpretation of the succubus is slightly different. Still a beautiful woman in appearance, she wanders the desert, and her mission is to punish adulterers by seducing the guilty men. At the moment of sexual penetration, she slices off his wang with razor blades. Ow. razor blades that line her vagina. Ow. And thereafter makes a meal of the unfortunate victim, eating him alive. Well, this book really does delve on into it. I didn't know it was that deep, but if you can elaborate off identifying real life incubus and succubuses and dive on into the mythology a bit, and then we can rock on out.
Yes, I do believe that's what your Futurama called snoo snoo, being screwed to death. So this is actually, unfortunately, I must say, is entirely accurate. You to 100% degree, because of even down to the razor blade type of thing on the vagina. This is there are demonic entities that do have this appearance. There's sirens of the sea that have a similar appearance, where they literally will suck the energy out of people through their skin pores. They are a type of evil mer that have the fins on the sides of the face and the gills. It's very similar. This is also a bat-like reptilian form. They both have reptilian in them. In this, though, are you able to impregnate someone in their light body? Absolutely so. Can you impregnate them in a different dimensional state? Absolutely so. And can they shift back and forth and then impregnate someone else? And has this happened in history? Yes, when people think that it's been more of a weird immaculate conception sort of thing, kind of like your Jersey Devil story, for instance, it is something very similar to that. Something very similar happened in that particular storyline. He thought it was about dragons, but it was actually more or less about incubi and succubi. This is why the baby had a very odd appearance. It was actually an experiment that needed a direct birthing, so there were aliens involved in that particular experiment as well. In this, though, say, for example, you have a negative nymph. There are negative nymphs that are negative fairy types. There are positive ones, too, that affect men sexually as well. But then that go in a variety of colors, from purple to green to pink to Caucasian to even African tones, native tones, all of them. You have the same in the negative ones that also have sometimes plant-like appearances. Same with some of the positive, but some of the negative will disguise themselves. Like in this area, for instance, they disguise themselves as cacti and the like. That they can shift into different plant forms. In the traditional type that you mentioned, though, they can physically appear to an unwitting victim. They draw them into a particular frequency where they are solid towards each other. See, they're in a very slow-moving, a very not necessarily just sexual bandwidth, but they're in more of a depraved bandwidth. They can pull them in, and they can actually do exactly what you just said. And that particular unfortunate victim then disappears from the home. They will never find usually the body except on very rare occasions. Sometimes out in the wilderness or close to the home. This is where some of the missing people go, unfortunately. Not just SSP, not just secret space program, not just wandering into a canyon or abducted by military, but sometimes on occasion this indeed happens. He himself has run into it on more than one occasion, one physical occasion, in fact, that he will more than likely be grossed out by what I'm about to say. But the being that showed up was more like a harpy or more like a succubus in her own right. She cannot do anything about this because she is now trapped, but so I can actually say these things. He calls this being the witch, whereas she was going to do exactly what was being shown. I and others managed to get this being away from him, when at the time he was more naive to the deadliness of this particular calamity. He also encountered a positive fairy in a similar fashion on his friend Viking's property, one by the name of Lucinda, where he walked into a bathroom and saw this naked fairy in the bathtub physically. Yes, and she drew him also into a certain frequency value. Luckily, she was a positive one and not a succubus. But the point, I hope, is well taken in this. These things can actually occur. Some of these are weird, energetic, vibrational value, and also genetic mutative beings that were either created or they were some weird physics abnormality from going dimensional to physical. But in this particular case, these creatures are quite physical, quite real, and they usually go after people, like you said, that are more susceptible to being scarred, say people that have not introduced sexuality into their life and are more of in a depraved mindset, like say someone who's a monk that goes in as a young man, or somebody like that, that was trying to deny the sex versus
that could be easily seduced.
Can be easily seduced, yes. And also the Orion empire out there is what introduced celibacy to begin with. So people separated light from light, you see, within themselves. You're supposed to balance creative sexuality and positive so it doesn't flip to a bastardized negative, like what you've been hearing about in your news, when you hear what you've been hearing about with the church. These beings are directly responsible for adding things in like pedophilia, all of these things within your society.
Very interesting. Thank you. Very grand.
Yes, thank you. Do you have further questions?
No, you've pretty much summed it up. I don't know what else to ask. You kind of went through the full spectrum there when it comes to incubus and succubus. But to leave everybody with one final quote, I guess I do have one. Enlighten everybody on how they can align themselves during these high energy times of year.
Yes, during these high energetic times, especially with what's going on in your political arena and all this, just know exactly who you are inside so you do not get mentally messed with by a lot of these different beings. Both positive and negative things cross these different veils and at different, very highly charged parts of your planet. Your Sedona, Arizona is one of them, and various other locations across the planet that also bring in some of these different beings. At many different times, even during the year, but Halloween mostly. This also aligns with your Witcher mythology and lore within the game and books and your TV show. They called it the conjunction of the spheres, whereas different beings came in from different dimensions, and the Witchers had to actually go after them. This they were formed to go after them. This, granted, was denoting super soldier and also other Witcher groups that went after vampires and such in history. Yes, they do exist. All of the anti-vampire and evil groups and the vampires and werewolves, all of the above. All these creatures are hunted by different response teams that are out there. This is actually a historical fact that's being presented within those books. But they were merging government and military super soldier with that of these Witcher type groups that are out there. These and along with the conjunction of the spheres, this is why you get weird creatures that cross in through the dimensional veils around the Halloween time frame. There is, of course, again, he said the central sun that's closer, but there's certain sphere and planetary alignments that also dimensional alignments. See, on your Earth, you're standing on your Earth right now, but you're surrounded by a nexus point of a multitude of dimensions and expressions, timelines, and multiple universes you call the multiverse, and access to that. Imagine if those veils between also Asgard, your Midgard, and Agartha, and other dimensional areas in between were suddenly thinned. And now you have a creature from, say, Asgard roaming the Earth, and you have animals from Earth roaming the inner Earth, and vice versa, and all of the above, and other planetary environments that are within the Earth nexus. This is why your Kabbalah said there are actually 7 Earths. This is where this actually originates from.
Interesting. Thank you much, Isaac. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure working on these shows with you gents, and we will do this soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Popping back through.
Yeah, my eye was watering very horribly during that. But well, to give context to one of the things that he was actually stating was one thing he missed is when some of these nymphs can possess a person and basically suck their energy off from the reverse side too, and eat their energy from the inside out too. I've run into that one myself as well. But the one incident he was referring to was a being that I now call the witch that was on Hartley Street with us in Nebraska. And they're in Lincoln, and I actually did encounter her physically one time, and there was this bolt of lightning that actually separated us at one point. Somebody was intervening on our behalf, and the lightning aspect to this in that dimensional layer would be more like a weapon, like what was used on the Georgia Guidestones recently to explode it, like with the electromagnetism, and that's exactly what happened. I basically equated it to a Zeus lightning bolt type of thing. But Isaac just admitted that he was part of actually protecting me then. So he's around military that have access to this technology. So that was the synchronicity that he was actually confirming right there. I didn't know Isaac then, but obviously he knew of me at that point. So, and he works around these people that have these particular types of weapons, like what hit the Georgia Guidestones. That was a dew weapon that essentially opened a portal that had this electromagnetic burst that hit the Guidestones. That's why you saw the lights that were surrounding the Guidestones. That's why you saw them getting brighter and start to flicker, and then all of a sudden, boom! You know, that it was using a buildup of ions, electromagnetism that came from a satellite using a portal network, essentially.
Yeah, so, I'm trying to find some pictures of it here, but yeah. I thought that was strange when that happened, the Georgia Guidestones. That's the last thing I expected.
Yeah, and that was a good faction. I found out they used it doing via CERN too. They used the Hadron Collider to access the dew weaponry, and they hit the Guidestones that way. So Isaac was basically saying the other thing with the lightning that he was talking about with the other incident with me with the succubus entity. He was using that to use the ionic burst to separate that being from me. So. And it worked. It worked quite well. So, yeah.
Interesting. Well, I suppose we better wrap this one on up. But I thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this pre-Halloween spectacular. If you did, drop us a like, share with your family and friends, and be a pretty enlightening episode for anybody that might be interested in expanding their knowledge, and especially, around this time of year where energies are their highest. But until next episode, we hope you're doing well. And as you entered the conspiracy sector in the beginning, you are now leaving. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.
That should be pretty informing for them.
Oh, yeah, that was a great one. Yeah.
The whole time I've twisted while we were recording, I did something to my shoulder. I can't really lift my shoulder, and I twisted my knee out of place. So I got an E-stim unit. I was E-stimming my knee.
That I hate that when that happens. It always happens at the wrong freaking time. Yeah.
I tell you, I've been nothing but fucking broken the last year.
I know. We went yesterday to see a friend of ours. One thing I probably should have said during the show was about a bone throw that she was doing, like a magical technique that was like tarot, but she threw this basket of bones that showed different aspects of future, past, and things that were blocking and stuff. It's like a tarot bone throw, and it's very, very interesting. She was showing things that were blocking my abundance, things that were blocking Joanna, that she was separating, also things from herself. Everything was basically you throw bones in a basket along with like little bells and baubles, and whatever comes out, it represents the things that are blocking, like enemies, the dark energies, light energies, all of that. And it's actually very, very interesting. We'll have to have her on sometime to explain this. But
yeah, that'd be all right. We'll have to, I wouldn't mind trying to find a guest or two too, maybe if I come across to join us.
On a recent Ancient Aliens, they were talking about how the Kabbalah or the Zohar talked about the 7 Earths. And that's the same as all the planets being within each other, or Asgard surrounding us, Midgard, Agartha, all of those. And also the conjunction of the spheres on The Witcher, where when they conjuncted, all these creatures came across the barriers from other dimensions, including vampires and ghouls and all this other stuff. And that's true, though these beings do come across the dimensions, and also the worlds within worlds. That's conjunction of the spheres. That is when everything aligned. Also, when Asgard exploded, it got transposed as this other dimensional state. It's still a physical place you can portal to, but it's a world within a world. Granted, it's also portal to other solar systems through the Bifrost as well, with the portal system that they showed in the Witcher video game. But with this, there are seven Earths, which what they were saying was essentially either portals to other worlds or the other dimensional states, where there are other worlds occupying the same space, like Asgard, Midgard, Agartha, the same type of premise, kind of like with an orange peel effect. So that's what they were getting at, but it's both that can be interpret it as, which I found very fascinating. I'll post this under the Witcher recordings. We just saw that there's a lot of references to the conjunction of the spheres, a lot of synchronicities that's been popping up about that fictional event, because that is based on reality. With dimensional creatures crossing the veils between from when they said the portals sealed up and you could still smell and hear things on the other sides of them, but you just couldn't enter because they were all sealed. Yeah, some of these portals to these other dimensions, like from Stonehenge and everything, are all sealed up. Some of them sealed up, some of them remained open, but that's when the Bifrost got broken as well. So that's telling that event when the conjunction happened in the Witcher lore. Yeah, some of these portals that show up in the show version are like these anchors to our dimension. And yes, some of these stone monoliths are those same type of anchors. Stone technology, but it still applies. The same as the anchor to make the Earth so it doesn't go into a violent pole shift or Kali Yuga, and it does it really slow. Yeah, that is exactly what is going on. So I'll add this to the Witcher recordings. I just wanted to tag that this notation for that Ancient Aliens episode on the Zohar. So they said the Kabbalah was part of the Zohar, so they're studying Zohar, not just Kabbalah. But even though there are other things about the Kabbalah I disagree with that I've said in past recordings, that one I do, because that's about the conjunction of the spheres. So it is 7:09 p.m. Oh yeah, they in The Witcher, in the video game, they put it as happening years before, and that the Witchers were needed to combat the monsters. The super soldiers were there to combat the monsters, just like how they created super soldiers on other planets to combat monsters as part of a false flag operation to conquer those other planets. Watch Jason Rice's material. I had to go through that myself too. But then there's the real kind, where you go around combating monsters, vampires, Witcher group. That is essentially those Mosin along with their human counterparts. So, watch Galactic Interstellar Council After Show, you know what I mean. 7:10 p.m. Friday, September 16th, 2022. Thank you. What was weird was he was talking about the holy men being seduced by succubuses. And Aubrey was saying that. I also was sitting coming out of a seminary. You know, I could see this vision. I was coming out of a seminary, and there was this monk that came walking around with this really horrid look on his face, like he had this really bad dream. And this other monk, I was seeing it from both monks' perspective, like the leader came up to him and said, "What's going on, brother? You know, what's happening, brother?" Not like that. He just said, "What is bothering you, brother?" But anyway, he said, "Well," and he looked at him with teary-eyed and said he'd seen a succubus or a demon. And the other monk got wide-eyed and they went out front, sat in this pew, and he was talking to it like out in the church, main part of the church that I was in. It was this elaborate gold church, wood and gold, and of course had the large crucifix with the number of pews and everything. But obviously this was a church and not just regular monks. I believe these monks guarded information, but I believe there were regular priests that would conduct mass. But these guys were different than regular priests. And this guy was crying, and he was saying, I don't know what to do, saying this is making me think impurely, which again, celibacy was part of the Orion agenda to separate one from oneself. As I've said in other recordings, but I'll reiterate here. What the Orions wanted to do is, they wanted people to think, that's evil, that's debaucherous, that you have to bounce all that in. Of course, if you deny yourself, it goes to the opposite end of the spectrum. You deny the good things about it, it ends up on the opposite end of the spectrum. And then you have succubuses that can prey on you if you have the depraved side of you. Where do you think all the bastardizations and viral contaminants like pedophilia and all that comes in? Found out that's a mutagenic viral the contaminant. Not very much like a Witcher mutagen, but it's a negative form of it. That actually, along with a possession and a succubus telepathic manipulation and demonic telepathic manipulation, alien to Orion, that has cultivated that virus for thousands of years. It can be cured. It can be gotten rid of. It's just people have to acknowledge that it's a sickness. And it's a form of mind control as well, but it affected the genome. Anyhow, this we talked about other mutagenic things at length. I just was focusing on that. But in this scenario, this was a young man. I would say he was 19, 20. Hello, of course he's gonna be horny. Come on, you know, a real, like a comedian Dennis Miller said years ago, real sound decision for an 18-year-old. And then you wonder why later on you have all the pedophilia and all this other stuff that get incorporated in there. Your belief systems have separated something from yourself, just like the New Age groups try to separate, you know, the emotions from you, feeling different emotions, that you must not deal with that, just like Christianity says, give all your negativity to Christ. And Christ will take it. That's his cross to bear. No, it's more like how Kirk said in Star Trek Final Frontier, whereas Spock's half-brother was taking the pain away from people. And Kirk said, no, I need my pain. And it's just like what Viking was saying. Eat your pain and then, deal with it. You must deal with it. This is essentially it. If something's taking it from you, you're not dealing with it. It's just stagnating it. The same goes with celibacy. It's nothing to be cured. It's nothing to separate from yourself. You integrate your sexual side. Celibacy is madness because people say, "Oh, I'm separating this out. I'm bringing in more light." No, you're separating light from light, and you're bringing less light into your life. Come on. If you're one way, one persuasion or the other, it doesn't matter. If you're thinking one thing or another, it doesn't matter. Unless, of course, it's evil, the actual evil, like the other pedophilia stuff and everything. That's actual evil, overage, and spider. Different from all the rest of this. Having sex with animals, that's a bastardization of elemental garbage. Bastardization of elemental stuff, that's twisted and sickening. So, yeah. See the difference? So, yeah, just remember, at the end of the day, celibacy was to separate one from oneself. And that's why it was introduced into the church, because the church was, and all those religions in that respect, were Orion inspired. Just remember that. So that was the vision sequence that came to me after, of course, the show was done. Typical. So I will add this. So it is 11:19 a.m. Sunday, September 18th, 2022. Thank you. Okay, one other thing I'll add to this conversation, one thing I didn't add, glaring thing, the Dreamtime revocation. You've heard me talk about multiple occasions, don't accept candy from strangers in dreams. Where they try to hand you objects, let you open a door to let you in a car, open a door into a building, try to get you to eat food, etc. The Dreamtime revocation, one of the most important things that we found of all time. Say this every morning, or at least some variation of this. And say your name, I revoke any and all agreements made in dream time, fantasy time, imagination time, and daydream time with any malicious being and or beings. I revoke and release it all. It is forever so, in all moments, all sessions, and expressions. You can do the short version of that in the either in the middle of the night or when you wake up, just saying, I revoke any and all agreements made in dream time. Just do that, and that usually nails it. Even if you get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and you think something weird's happened, do that. Don't get to the OCD level where you're doing all revocations all the time. I ended up doing that. The Dreamtime one breaks all these OCD boundaries and ADHD boundaries and everything. When it comes to this, and it's one that is necessary, especially now. So just remember that one, and I'll even paste it at the end of this video, our little card. So and remember, the revocations are on our website, thelifting.net. It's on the front page, and if you see, by the time you see this, if it's the new site by that time, I will also put it out front in some fashion or form, or in some tab, labeling it very well. So. As of the date of this recording, it is on the front page towards the bottom, so on the home page. So it is 11:27 a.m. Sunday, September 18th, 2022. Thank you. Okay, there's another aspect to the magic and witchcraft. You've all heard me talk about the witches of Atlantis, and it's both in the Star Trek pile and in the Galactic Interstellar Council pile of information, and galactic history, Lifting's Guide to Galactic History, all of those things. And this is something that you're going to have to go to the Galactic Interstellar Council.com website to see. It's one of the Galactic Interstellar Council Infinitum episodes, number 7, where we spoke about the Queen, we spoke about the different lineages, and you've also heard me talk about in countless recordings about the link to Atlantis, with where the crystal skulls were used as a link to the Orion homeworld of Nibiru. It's not a benevolent thing. It was hijacked. You heard me do some channelings a while ago about time. You heard Walter the Crystal Skull talking to us at one point, but he was always linked to the Orion artificial intelligence we call the Clockmaker, and also an artificial intelligence agenda, and as a part of the Orion agenda. So if you want to see some of that history, go to galacticinterstellarcouncil.com and subscribe for a subscription. It's actually quite interesting. Another thing, though, we forgot to put on that episode was we heard Isaac talking about the links to Italy with the reptilian family lines that were everywhere. And that was also the De Medici family. He said Italy, never mentioned De Medici. I just saw a synchronicity about it today, about the lizard queen. You always hear some of those jokes and inferences, and people talking about the reptilian lines like we did. The De Medicis were one of them, the snake queen. They have this series on Hulu. Haven't seen it. I don't know a whole lot about the De Medicis, but that's where Isaac was pointing towards. So, I mean, do your own research, but they are obviously, from what I can see, one of the major families in the Middle Ages, and also were one of these reptilian lines. So that's what he meant by Italy. At first, I thought it was just the church and Rome having reptilian ties, like around the times of Jesus, but it was also the De Medici family that Isaac was pointing out in the channeling. So I would highly advise people go to that website, galacticinterstellarcouncil.com. You hear the after shows, and you hear episodes 4 through 7 of Galactic Interstellar Council Infinitum. 1 through 3 is free on our YouTube. Just look up my name, Christopher S. Jacobs, and you'll see the work that me, Conrad, and Viking did. You'll also see the lifting episodes that me and Joanna have done, and Sage and all of that is on there. The original Galactic Interstellar Council, Down the Rabbit Hole, A Galactic Perspective, that's always going to be free. Same thing with the original lifting show. That's over 145 episodes, I believe. It will always be free. So please go to these places. Thank you very much. If you have subscribed already, thank you very much. And also, thank you for enjoying this episode of Conspiracy Sector. So I will leave it here. It is 4:40 p.m. Sunday, September 18th, 2022. Thank you.